Hey everybody, it's Rockula and welcome back to Rockula Retrospective. This is part 1 of my weekend full review of The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 12, titled Remember. Okay, so the weekend is normally when I do my re-review, full review, and it usually gets into just about 15 minutes, but right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop these into segments. The first segment is going to be on Alexandria and the new characters there. The second one is going to be on Rick's group and the update on their situation, and the third one is going to be examining the previews and tying up all the loose ends for episode 13. Eventually, when I post all these, they're going to end up right here in the annotations. So I'm going to go into a little bit more explanation about that. I'm still stuck with the 15-minute restriction, and I'm going to be stuck with it for quite a while. So instead of doing a full review and trying to fit everything into the 15-minute time limit, I decided that if I divide it up into categories, it'll give me a little more time to stretch and explore some of the issues that I used to be able to do back when I had no restriction. Plus, let's face it, not everybody can concentrate for 15 minutes or longer, so I'm seeing a lot of the more successful reviewers posting numerous small episodes, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm really excited about this new strategy, and it'll take a little bit of pressure off of me trying to do a review and fit it into 15 minutes and get it all together by the weekend. I'll be able to meter these out. I mean, we're almost at the end of the episode, but gotta learn sometime. The other reason that I wait till the weekend to do it is that I try to watch as many reviewers as possible so that I can get a good consensus of what's going on in the reviewer community. So let's get on to our first topic, which is the new people in Alexandria. Of course, the first person that we're talking about here is Deanna, and I got a kind of a Captain Janeway vibe from her, and not so much her face, but her hair. And I'm not talking about the first Janeway, I'm talking about the second Janeway where they kind of softened up her edges. But it's more of like her speech patterns and her mannerisms, and yeah, a little bit like the hair. I know that I have a habit of calling people other names, like I'm always going to call Abraham Seamus, but I think from now on, when you hear me say Janeway, I'm talking about Deanna. Deanna gets Rick into her office and starts interviewing him and asks if she can switch on the video camera. At first I thought that she was just documenting this stuff for posterity and history for future generations, and she wanted to get these people's stories fresh out of their minds as soon as they got inside. But then I realized when she said, "We're all about transparency here," that's when I started to realize she is recording this for other people to watch so they can make a decision on whether or not they're going to accept people into the community. A good majority of people that I've sampled don't trust Deanna, and they think, oh, she's a senator, you can't trust her, she's hiding something. Everybody's always hiding something, but I think she's trustworthy. Her story is plausible. Plus, she lays it out to Rick about everything, and she's like, we're completely weak. You've already figured out that we're weak. So why is she being truthful about being weak? She also shows that she is a good judge of character because she may have taken their guns away, but she allowed Daryl to have his crossbow, and everybody else had their knives and personal defense weapons. So I think she's a pretty good judge of character, just like she says, because she also knows if Rick's group wanted to, they could all come out of the house at night and murder all of them just armed with knives and crossbows. Next we come to Jessie, and the thing that I don't understand about Jessie is, why did she not mention her husband when she first saw Rick? And here's the other thing, I don't know if everybody else caught it, but at about 23 minutes into the episode, when she's talking to Rick outside, I swear I caught him checking out her rack. And then she says this.
You didn't even get a good look at it.
Now, we all know about the scene where Jesse's husband was sitting on the porch and was kind of douchey to Rick, but I'm going to put that off for a second, and we all talked about that, but I'm going to talk about some other implications about Jesse's husband a little bit further into the review. So let's get to Aiden. Aiden starts off kind of nice, and he really seems like he's trying to empathize with our survivors, but he can't, because he obviously has no idea how incredibly bad it is out there. He gradually morphs into a douche. You can see sprinkles of it when he's like talking about the guns, but I don't think that he is automatically going to be an evil person per se. I've got something that I can say about him in a little bit too, but he's either going to have to get his ass kicked to wise up, or somebody's going to have to save him. Glenn's takedown didn't end it, because, nobody that douchey lets things go. And he's probably jealous of Rick. So this is where we're going to come into future conflicts with Deanna, because it seems to me that she is glad when Glenn knocks him on his ass, and she thinks that he still needs to get some reality before he can really wise up to the situation. But it's going to come down to this: if it comes to a decision between protecting her son or protecting the interests of the group and the group as a whole, and she stood up and said it, Rick's group is an equal entity within our community. So this is where we're going to see her, whether she'll choose her son over the community. Now we got the gun in the blender and the wolves. Let's start with a sequence of events. When Carl is outside following Enid, Enid hears a sound that startles her and sends her in the other direction. And when we go over to Rick, we see that same sound emanates from the barn when the walker comes out and tries to go after Rick. Then we see Carl come up on Rick, and Rick doesn't even act like he's pissed off that he's outside of the perimeter. And it's like, does he really have that much respect for Carl now? He's like, hey, what's going on? So it looks like Rick has some renewed trust issues with Carl. Now let's talk about the walker under the trash. Now obviously when Rick stashed that gun, he didn't have to deal with the walker under the trash, and it would have come out. So the walker under the trash is an obvious plant, and most of us have seen this, but if you haven't seen it by now, Scott Ian, the guitar player from Anthrax, was the walker under the trash. So a lot of reviewers are saying that they think that Enid took the gun, but I think it's the people who stashed the walker under the trash. Now, it's a toss-up whether or not it's the wolves, and this is where I'm going to go into some things that I deconstructed about the episodes, and I'm going to present those to you now. Let's address this concept of the wolves. Now, if you remember, the wolves concept was first introduced to us in Richmond, Virginia, in Noah's community. And it said wolves not far, spray painted on the wall, and then we had the walkers with the W's in their foreheads. Now let's go to Alexandria, and some people are thinking that the wolves may not be a roving band. They may be a secret society within Alexandria that uses Alexandria as their base, and they go around and commit all these atrocities. And it kind of rings true because, you've got Aiden and the other guy that thought that they were going to derive some sort of satisfaction out of torturing a walker. And so that fits in with somebody who would just cut off the arms and legs of a walker and then carve a W in their head. But here are some of the contributing factors and numbers and stuff like that that I calculated up here, and I'm going to tell you here. Aiden said that they made it 53 miles out so far on their supply runs. But, you know, once again, Alexandria and Richmond are about 108 miles away. Does Aiden mean that the supply runs have only made it out 53 miles? Because we know for a fact that Aaron, in order to have watched our group for as long as he has to have watched them almost since they got out of Richmond. So we've got two different situations going on here. We've got Aiden and his supply runs, which he claims he's gone about 53 miles, and we've got Aaron, who has obviously gone a lot farther than that. Do we have two separate groups that are covering different distances, or is Aiden lying about it, and are the Wolves the guys from Alexandria doing these 100+ mile excursions out and doing all kinds of atrocities? So the last character I'm going to talk about is Enid. Now, the reason I chose her as the last is because she's going to carry over into the Rick's group commentary. So basically what I'm going to say about her as far as how she relates to Alexandria is there's two schools of thought. One is that the dominant school of thought is that she is a mole for the Wolves, which I think wouldn't happen if the Wolves were an internal situation. And two, which is the only people that I ever heard bring this up, is two dead girls, but it's a viable theory that her parents were two of the people that got exiled, and they left Enid behind, begging to say, you know, our child is innocent, and she's sneaking out and bringing supplies to her parents. So those are two possibilities about Enid. I'm going to stop here, and we're going to hop over to the next part of the review, which is Rick's group. I'm Rockula, and this is Rockula Retrospective.